I am selling my house and I'm getting ready to move back with my parents yet again. I am single. I do have a 9-to-5 job where it does not pay me nearly enough to cover the bills. And I've had this house for about 3 years now, and I am just exhausted. I am drowning, barely surviving, not being able to make repairs because the house is now falling apart, and I have no money in my savings to fix it. I have been saving for the past 3 years. All I've been doing is working and going straight home. I don't go out. I don't spend money on like coffee or anything. I tried to save as much money as possible so I could get some money to make repairs for this house to make it nice and comfortable and livable. But I am at my wit's end now, and I'm just tired. I honestly want to leave my job, my 9-to-5 job that's not paying me well enough to even cover the bills. I'm exhausted. I want to leave, but then I'm stuck with this house, and I just don't want any of it anymore. So I'm selling it. I don't know what my plans are going to be after I sell my house and maybe leave this 9-to-5 job that I'm at. But we're just going to figure it out. And living with my parents is not going to be easy because it is very mentally draining. Financially, yeah, I'll be able to save some money, but it is mentally draining because living with some Spanish parents that treat you like you're 15 yet again, even though you are a grown-ass adult, is just as bad.
Not the parents catching strays already. Honestly, a lot of people find themselves in this situation where they are house poor. What does that exactly mean? According to Investopedia, house poor is defined as spending a large portion of total income on home ownership. This includes mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance, utilities, and individuals in this situation are short of cash for discretionary items and tend to have trouble meeting other financial obligations, such as vehicle payments. And the reason for this is because all of their money is tied up into repairs and mortgage going to their home. After they put all their money into their home, they simply don't have any money left over for anything else. Now let's take a quick look at these comments. The first comment of this video says, just imagine people having no parents to go back to, and that's absolutely true. The next highest comment says, moving back with your parents after buying a home has to be the most humbling experience. And here's what I think about that, y'all. If you need to move back home with your parents, do what is necessary to get yourself out of the financial home. Forget all that pride stuff. Make it make sense. And I thought this was an interesting comment. It says, my aunt rented rooms out in her house to a woman in the same work field as her for years for extra income. She did so well, she was able to purchase other properties. Sometimes you got to make iced tea with the lemons. So let's continue to see what being house poor looks like from people struggling in this current economy.
I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had no bills. And I had a full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working as a nurse. Okay, I was killing it. I bought my own house. That first mortgage payment came in and I was like, oh, this is a situation. But at first you think you can handle it, right? Like, what's a couple thou? What's a couple thou? I got it. And then the pipes in my 80-year-old home broke immediately as soon as I bought the house. Wiped out my savings. Then another pipe in a different area of the house broke. Okay, I'm struggling. Okay, I need help. Then my neighbor's pipe, it was a twin house, her pipe broke. And she didn't believe that her pipe broke, but her pipe broke on my side of the house. So all of that water that was coming down was spraying into my home. And then my water heater broke. When I tell y'all, I went from living in the lap of luxury to destitute immediately. Now, don't get me to fooling y'all, because it was worth it in the long run because that house is now worth like 2 times what it was worth then. So I'm actually doing pretty good. But at the time, when I tell you I was struggling, I had to go to my parents every other day for dinner because your girl could not feed herself.
And as bad as that sounds, I think that this needs to be shared with people because this is honestly what it can look like. There are teams online committed to going against each other, and these two teams are people who rent houses and people who buy houses. And I believe saying one is better than the other doesn't account for all of the nuanced situations that each person faces financially. Your financial situation is not the same as your neighbor's. While you may be able to afford a mortgage, your neighbor may not, and vice versa. And the same could be said about the expenses that come along with home ownership. In her case, it's very good that her house appreciated in value, but those beginning years when she was facing those repairs, can you imagine if she didn't have the money? Because opposed to renting, you are the maintenance woman, you are the maintenance man. And it doesn't matter what it is. Your roof could go missing. And if a hurricane was to drop the top on your roof, do you have enough money to cover the deductible that you might have to pay because of your insurance not covering the full roof? Do you have money if your water heater goes out, because that could be thousands of dollars? What if your AC goes out in the middle of the summer? I actually had a lizard get stuck in one of my AC units, and I had to call somebody out there because it was 96 degrees in the house. And I'm not saying that to deter anybody from home ownership. These are just things that you have to be prepared for and willing to accept with the cost of being a homeowner. You know, and her caption here at the top says, "Home ownership is not for the weak," and I couldn't agree more. But let's see what these comments says. It says here at the top comment, 2 of my friends make 6 figures. As soon as they closed on their house, they immediately became house poor. Entire savings immediately gone. That last comment shows it doesn't even have to do with how much money you make. If you have too much house and all of your expenses, no matter if you're making $100,000 or not, is going to that house, that is how you become house poor. You could be house poor in a townhouse, in a single family home unit, or in a huge mansion. The next comment here says, "Your inspector did you dirty if all that went wrong immediately." Before you close on that house, you need to have a home inspector come look at everything. You need pictures with the comments on all of the discrepancies for anything wrong in that house, because this is something that you want to show to the homeowner that is currently owning the house before you buy the house, and tell them to fix it so you don't have to fix it. Now, in her case, I don't know if all these things were wrong before and she didn't have an inspection because she didn't speak about that. And this is why you want to have all these things done before you buy the house, because what if the last homeowner actually knew about all of this? And before any of y'all hop in the comments and be like, "No, people wouldn't do that." No, people wouldn't just sell me a house with stuff that they know is wrong. Yes, they will. Because once you buy the house, it's yours. It's your problem. And guess what? Some of them know that they have leaks, bad AC, plumbing problems. They know they have electrical issues, and they're not going to tell you. And that's why it would behoove you to hire a home inspector on your behalf. You want somebody that's going to be honest and upfront with you. And I need y'all to remember this forever. If you are ever trying to get a new build, or if you are buying a home, never let them recommend your home inspector. They might be in cahoots. I'm just being honest with you. And NerdWallet published this very interesting article, and it talks about how to budget for a new home so you don't end up house poor. Now, there are resources online that you can use to help you figure out how much house you can afford. And one of those resources is called an affordability calculator. There's actually a link for one right here. Now, it goes on to state, one of the commonly cited rules of thumb is that you shouldn't spend more than 28% of your gross monthly income on housing-related costs and 36% on total debts, including mortgage, credit cards, and other loans. And that's according to a certified financial planner, not me. So comment down below or tell me, do you know somebody who is paying more than 30% of their income, most of their income even, for their home? These are the criteria that lead people into being house poor. And I don't want that for none of y'all.
Now that I'm house poor, I've got to make my mortgage payment, so let's do that together. The amount of the mortgage on this house is $362,549.54. We bought this house in April 2025, and our mortgage balance then was $364,500. So we've made a little progress. But like I said, we are definitely in the house poor category, and our monthly payment is $2,919.17. Whew, that's a lot. Of that, almost $3,000, only $347.97 goes toward principal. Then for interest, we are paying $1,926.04. And our escrow is $645.16. So that's a lot that's going toward interest when we make this payment this month. But because I don't want to be paying this huge amount for 30 years, I am paying a little bit extra toward reducing the mortgage balance every single month. So I rounded up my mortgage payment to $3,000, which means I put an extra $80.83 directly toward principal, and I paid a full payment of $3,000 toward the mortgage. This means our new balance after that $347 and that $80 together reduced it is $362,120.74. Not much of a difference, but we are trying to throw whatever we can toward the mortgage balance when we can, because it makes the biggest difference in the beginning, because it reduces the balance and you pay less interest overall.
That's actually really smart that she's putting extra money towards the principal because she's going to pay it off a lot faster. And another thing that we talked about in one of our previous videos is the fact that a lot of times when people get homes, they log into the app and they want to see how much of this house did I pay off. And often they do this within the first couple of years. And then they log in to be disappointed, to be hit with the same reality that she is discussing here, which is a lot of those payments that you are putting towards the mortgage aren't going towards the principal of the home. It's going towards interest. Whatever interest rate that you got whenever you decided to get the home is contributing to that interest payment every month. Now let's look at a few of these comments. Paying almost $2,000 a month in interest is criminal, but honestly is quite normal, especially in the first 1 to 3 years. The next comment says, bro, y'all are making so much more money than me. Ain't no way I could do $3,000 in mortgage payments per month. And a lot of you could, but you might just end up house poor, like how she was saying she is. She's saying she's house poor because all of her money is going into her house. She probably makes a good amount of money. And this is how it happens. And somebody here said something very important. Wait until that escrow shortage hits next year. I was short $800. Taxes, insurance went up. And that happens to a lot of people. And the creator even said that she's aware this can happen and is saying that she's building savings because she is looking to pay it versus raising her payment. What would end up happening if she has an escrow shortage and she doesn't have the money on hand? Say she was short $800, you might end up paying an extra $88 a month as far as your monthly payment goes to cover that shortage. And that's where a lot of people have issues because when the property taxes go up or their insurance goes up, that is how they get those increases in payments that they pay every month. And then they'll get on TikTok or social media and that's where you hear them saying, my mortgage went up. What they're really trying to tell you is their property taxes went up or their insurance went up, unless they didn't get a fixed rate, aka they got an ARM, which I personally think is a horrible idea, but let's just get into it real quick. An adjustable rate mortgage is an interest rate that changes periodically with the broader market. Why do I say that I don't think that's a good idea? It's because it's not fixed. Fixed meaning you know what the interest rate is year after year. That is one thing that you can get with your mortgage is a fixed interest rate. So for example, would you rather know that you're getting 5% or 6% for 30 years or to not know? And maybe right now you're getting a 5%, but 5-10 years from now, you might be paying 12% in interest. That difference can be a huge change in how much you're going to pay monthly. And with the way inflation and everything is looking, I wouldn't want that. That's how a lot of people can end up being foreclosed on for their house because now they can't afford their monthly payment, which is why I don't think it's a good idea.
How are all my friends who bought houses in 2022 and you thought, the payment would get lower soon because interest rates would go down, you could refinance. The interest rates just kept going up and you couldn't refinance and you've just been house poor for 3 years. Can't afford vacations, can't afford the simple luxuries of life. How are your ramen noodles for dinner tonight? Literally, that's what we ate for dinner. I mean, I added some ground turkey in there, but damn, we are at our breaking points with being house poor. But the thing is, we could not sell our house even if we wanted to for a variety of reasons. But mainly, houses in our neighborhood aren't selling. Yeah, there have been houses on the market for almost a year in our neighborhood, so I'm going to need Jerome Powell to get canned or something soon because what's up with these interest rates? Please, can we catch a break here?
At first, I thought when she was talking about being house poor, she was just asking, but now I see she's also referring to herself as house poor and that she is also eating ramen noodles. Nothing against that, by the way. You got to do what you got to do to survive. But she brought up a very interesting point. A lot of people are not able to sell their houses and they're house poor. That's a very tough situation to be in. Many people don't want to buy homes at these prices along with these interest rates, which is why she was talking about Jerome Powell, who is the Federal Reserve Chairman. And Jerome Powell is supposed to be up out of there in May of next year. But for those of y'all who have been watching the news, they have been saying that there will be a reduction in interest rates. So we shall see how that affects the housing market. There is a comment here that I wanted to point out. It says 2.4 interest rate. Here, I'll die in my home. And the woman underneath says, I don't blame you. And the reason why she wants to stay in this home, for those of y'all who don't know, is because that 2.4% interest rate, if that's what she has, is way better than getting a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate on a home, especially if you're making monthly payments for 30 years. Most people are. They don't intend on paying off their mortgages early. You're trying to get a home at the lowest interest rate possible if you're getting a mortgage. The reason I'm saying that is because most people can't afford to just pay for a home cash. And if you can afford to pay for a home cash, you can really get out here in the market. This is the best market for you right now because there's not enough people in the market willing to buy homes because a lot of homes are overpriced and the interest rates aren't what people want them to be. The people who have cash to buy houses can go in the market and they're like kids in a candy store, honestly. They can get whatever they want and they can ask for price reductions because they don't need to go through all the hoops with the mortgage lenders and all of that. And so many home sellers are desperate to sell their houses because, again, not many people are buying right now. And somebody right here says it best. She says, I'm right here with you. Listed my house and it's just sitting. Had I known I'd be forced to live in this house forever, I wouldn't have bought the dang house. And the creator of this video replied with, I hope things shift a little bit. We want to sell next year and we're a little worried. And the reason she's a little worried is the current state of the housing market doesn't have enough people flooding in to just buy homes. And that sucks for you if you're trying to sell a home in the next year or even right now, forcing a lot of people to be stuck in homes that they may not even want to live in. And also making people who have extremely low interest rates want to stay put in their homes because you ain't going to go out here in these streets and get nothing better.
And normalize to not go buying a house and becoming house poor. Buying a house and becoming house poor is not talked about enough. So many people are house poor.
Yes.
So many people are house poor. And when I say house poor, people can't even afford their mortgage. For real. People are getting $2,500 mortgages knowing that they can't afford that. Not only that, people are closing on homes with significant others. And as they're closing on a home with significant others, anything can happen to the significant other. Anything.
Good point.
And guess what? Now you are on your own with those bills. And those bills are extremely too high for you. So now the home is going into foreclosure.
And this is why I personally think if you can't afford the home without your spouse, that might be a little bit too much house. You might be setting yourself up to become house poor, as she's saying. And I know a lot of people are like, I got a man, I got a wife, I got a husband. They ain't going nowhere. And nobody wants that, but life happens sometimes and some things are just unforeseeable. The truth is we never know what can happen to anybody around us. And these are things that you have to consider, especially if you want to be in a good financial position.
It's not talked about enough. And it's crazy because I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and I see this a lot, what goes on. Some people are in upside down, flipped up situations.
Yeah, they are.
Because the house won't sell because it's too high. They bought it at a high price during a certain time and the house not even worth that for real.
Yeah.
So now when they go to sell it, it's like, dang, they can't even sell the house. Because when COVID hit, these houses was going crazy.
Yeah.
And now they try to sell the house. They can't because it's not going to sell. It's not worth it.
And she had some great points. During the you know what, people were actually overbidding on houses and overpaying on houses. And then years later, a lot of people were forced to go back to work. Many people had remote jobs where they could live wherever they wanted to live. So they got homes in areas that they didn't have to consider where they worked. When a lot of people were forced to go back to work, they needed to have an easier commute. They couldn't now live 2-3 hours away from where their job was located. And if they overbidded on their house and overpaid for their house, they may have had to sell it for cheaper or sometimes at a loss. That doesn't even account for the rest of the people in the market that were just trying to sell their homes because they might have overpaid and had a financial situation arise, like things like divorce, death, illness, sickness, being fired, being laid off. All of those different life circumstances still were happening for a lot of different people. That's where you've seen stuff really get real. And this is why I want to help you guys stay informed and be aware, because I don't want to see you out here in the trenches fighting for your life, trying not to be house poor. So here's a few things that I recommend. If you want to try to avoid being house poor, buy below your budget. Give yourself a little wiggle room financially. Maybe don't go for the biggest house on the block. That costs a lot of money. Get you a little nice, humble abode. Get you something you can afford. It has to make sense, y'all. Don't worry about what everybody else got and trying to do what they do. Do what you can do. And if that means renting, so be it. Whoop-de-doo. Try to get more income streams or increase your income. Maybe even do some side hustles. Build up an emergency fund so you have resources available in the event that you need home repairs, because a lot of homeowners don't take that into account. And another thing is, a lot of people might have to consider downsizing out of a home that they bought that is keeping them house poor. And that doesn't make you a failure. That makes you smart. That makes you logical. That makes you somebody who is proactive if you know that that's what needs to be done. Do you know somebody that's house poor, or are you house poor yourself? And after seeing this video, what do you think about home ownership? Do you think renting is better? But we got to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.